Alright, man, peace. So, brothers, a few months ago I did a video called Can a Thug Change His Ways, Volume 1. And I believe that it was a two-part entry into that series. And basically it featured a young cat. He was on the side of the plaintiff, who happened to have a whole bunch of tattoos all across his body, including his face, because he was a former gang member. He was a former gang member who had decided to change his life. I believe that he had become a welder or entered the welding trade. And I used that video to show to a lot of brothers out there who might be on the wrong path and not sure what they should do with their lives, that there is always a better avenue for you, no matter where you come from, no matter what your upbringing was or is, no matter who it is that is surrounding you, no matter the energies or the vibrations that people are trying to impact your life with, especially if they're negative. There's always a higher path and a better way if you want there to be. If you want there to be. Unfortunately, in the so-called black community, the young black male is often neglected. And that's based on many of the energies that are promoted into the so-called black community onto the black female by the Caucasian liberal or by the television at large. What they're teaching our people is that the young boys don't matter, that only the females matter, that the homosexual male in the so-called black community matters more than the actual heterosexual male, that you don't need a man to preside over the household, that the black male and female should always be at war and at odds with one another. As I've stated in the past, the gender war is not a paradigm that I tolerate. I don't tolerate it on this channel. It's beneath any man to subscribe to the notion of a gender war. The man is supposed to be the head of the woman. If the woman is constantly trying to conflict with you, it's because she has issues with herself, she has issues with her past, and she has issues with what she's been raised to believe. These are all problems that the so-called black man is going to have to solve, because the issues with the black woman are actually issues with the black man. The black woman is not supposed to be allowed to teach herself. She's supposed to be taught by a man. Then the man and the woman work together to teach the children. That brings us to this case right here. This female right here presided over the upbringing of her cousin. Her cousin was a quote-unquote thug. What is a thug? A thug is a caricature. A thug is a cartoon character. Oftentimes, cats who embrace the lower aspects, the lower elements of society and of his overall being to try to appeal to a collective that is also helping to destroy their own communities. And I say this all the time, especially when it comes to the so-called pro-blacks. They're so fond of using that term coon for people who do not agree with many of their racial ideologies. But they won't call gang members, drug dealers, thugs. They won't call them coons. And they're the ones who are making a mockery of our quote-unquote community. So we have a lot of cleaning up to do. And it starts with the so-called black man taking control over himself. Once we have control over ourselves, then we can regain control over the woman, because the woman does have to be moderated by the man. I don't give a damn who don't like that. But you know what, let's get to the case so that we can use this case as a backdrop for certain issues. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Plaintiff LaPasha Davis says the defendant is her cousin, and she helped raise him. But despite her best efforts to keep him out of a gang, he ended up joining one at the age of 14.
Let me say this very quickly. I have family members who were gang members. I have family members who got involved in the drug life, the quote-unquote so-called thug life. A lot of times it's something that you cannot stop, you cannot prevent. There's always a debate about nature versus nurture. The answer, in my view, is that it's always a combination of both. Some people just love that street life. Some people just love the anarchy and the chaos that is consistent with that. And a lot of times they get street credibility off of their exploits, and it makes them feel like somebody. So those type of people, oftentimes you have to leave them alone and let them go through their own process. Hopefully they can make their way through it. If they can't, then you have to be there for them to the best of your ability, to be a support, a stay, and oftentimes a fountain of wisdom or experience or what have you. Hopefully they listen. If they don't, then they don't. But you have to let go a lot of those emotional trappings when you're dealing with people who willfully embrace that life. They have to figure shit out on their own.
LaPasha is suing her cousin today for a loan and attorney fees. Defendant Yari Woods admits he started running the streets when he was 12 or 13.
That's oftentimes when that happens. Let me say this very quickly. For all you brothers out there, you'll understand that once we hit puberty, which is around 12 to 14 years old, there is a transformation that occurs, not just in the mind of the so-called black man, but people in general. There's a transformation that occurs hormonally, physically, mentally. That's one of the first time periods of individual quote-unquote evolution, because we start to understand things on a different level for the first time when we get around 12 or 13 years old. That's when we start to seek out validation by joining certain cliques and groups or what have you.
And he was in and out of prison for years.
So my point in saying that is that when your son gets around that age, that's when we have to hone in on the young men, because when they get around 12, 13 years old, that's when they get caught up in a lot of dumb shit.
Yari claims he's been living a crime-free life for the past 3 years and finally has his life on track. He's countersuing for an assault.
Start with you.
Well, let me start with saying that I love Yari and care for him dearly. I've been taking care of him since he was, well, seeing after him, since I was 10. I would go to his house where he shared with his mother. Door wide open, I would get him and his sister dressed, take them to my grandmother's house. Eventually my mother, he was 8.5 months at that time. My mother got custody of them. My mother had a rule, where thee go, thou go. And I carried him on my hip, up and down the west side, until he was able to go outside by himself.
Let me say this very quickly, because the plaintiff is laying out a lot of his background. What you'll notice is that she stated that his mother had an open door. She does not mention his father. Oftentimes, brothers, we'll find that in many of these households, it's the same paradigm over and over again. There's no father there. And we know that this society harps on that paradigm from a very two-dimensional perspective. They always want to blame the man. We know that many of these females are programmed to get rid of the man as soon as they get pregnant. As I've stated in other videos, there's a praying mantis mentality amongst the modern day woman. She wants to have sex with the man, and as soon as she becomes inseminated by that man, she feels like she no longer needs him. So like the female praying mantis, she bites off the head of the male who inseminated her and sends him on his way. The point being is this: before you lay down with a woman, man, and inseminate her, you have to really get to understand that woman, and if that's somebody that you want to have a child with. So many times we'll see so-called black people who are impoverished on TV talking about, I'm broke, we have no running water, we have no heat in our home, I have 8 kids here and we can barely feed them. Well, you know what that means? That means that you don't care about your children. Because if you really cared about them, you would not have had them, knowing that you were in such an impoverished condition. So we have to become more forward thinking and stop always looking for so much sympathy and compassion because of our bad planning, because it does not reflect well upon us when we do things like that. Point being is this: oftentimes we'll see in these households, the woman wants to play the hero figure. She wants to play the mother goddess role. She wants to say, I did it all by myself. And as I've stated in other videos, oftentimes the same issues that the black man has with the black woman are the issues that the black woman has with a child when they come of age, when they hit puberty. These same so-called strong black women who are so powerful and know everything, they're the goddesses of wisdom, they become flummoxed by their children when their children hit puberty, because the child no longer has respect for them in the same way that they have no respect for manhood, for a man in their home presiding over the home. The woman has thrown off those shackles, so now the Lord has allowed the child to throw off the shackles of the mother when they come of age. So what does the mother do? She runs to the court system, aka the white man, to put her children back in line. And of course she knows that she can blame the man. So in order for us to controvert these issues, so-called black man, you have to take your time with these women. And what you'll find is that the woman, for the most part, is in a rush. She's in a rush to get you to do what she wants you to do because she has very ill intentions. So whenever a woman is in a rush, that's a red flag that that's somebody that you have to marginalize. That's not a wife material woman.
When he was 9, they was trying to recruit him for gangs. He missed curfew, which he never did. My mother said something wrong. Go find him. I did. Him and his best friend was in the middle of a crowd of older guys, my age and older. I snatched him out. You're going home with me. Of course, I was scared, but he got to go with me.
What'd you do?
I told him I talked a lot of smack. I talked a lot of smack. Like, he going home with me, I don't care what you're talking about, and a few curse words. And when I turned that corner, thank God, nothing happened. By the age of 14, he eventually did join the gang. We tried everything in our power for him not to.
Right, but the reason why he joined the gang was because he was looking for a sense of male fellowship, because there was no father in the home. And I'm sure people like to say, well, that's because black men don't do this. Black men. At the end of the day, the black man's number one problem is that he's not forward thinking enough when dealing with these women. You cannot change the woman. We're living in Babylon. The woman is going to do whatever she feels like doing. So you always have to expect that the woman is going to revert to her mother goddess archetype. And once you expect that, that will stop you from making a lot of bad decisions. But when these kids come of age, when these young men come of age, these young boys, they're going to look for male fellowship wherever they can find it. And in a society that is so anarchic like the so-called black community is, for the most part, they're going to find male fellowship in a gang or in a drug clique. That's how that's going to go. So it's up to the so-called black man to make a stand. The first person or the first entity that we have to make a stand against is the darker part of ourselves. You could talk about the so-called white man all day and talk about how the white man puts guns and drugs in the black community. But if you know that and you're still using the guns and drugs, that means that you're part and parcel to your own destruction. We have to learn how to adapt. I've stated this in other videos. Even a rat knows how to adapt. If you ever watch nature shows on National Geographic, or you ever hear them speak to a great exterminator, he'll tell you that you cannot use the same trap on a group of rats, because a rat will see how one of its fellow rats got caught in a trap and they will no longer approach that same type of trap. So-called black people, we have to stop using the same excuses about how they're flooding drugs and guns in the so-called black community. We have to show mental wherewithal and adapt to what's going on. That's how that's going to work. But once again, the first entity, the first energy that the so-called black man has to learn to come against and learn to conquer is the darker part of ourselves. Then we have to deal with that so-called black woman. And that's going to be a major, major issue, major cataclysm. But the black woman is not going to change until this society falls. So that's why it makes no sense to become agitated by the so-called black woman. All women are a product of their environment. Women, for the most part, are two-dimensional thinkers. They're survivors. They're going to go along with whatever society tells them to do or tells them how to act. It's up to the man to change his environment.
But, you know, the streets is the streets. By the age of 16, he got kicked out of school because he took the gun to school. He didn't actually get caught with the gun. A girl did. He fessed up to it. He was a good kid.
Did you hear what she stated? She said a girl got caught with the gun. That is another part of the allure of becoming a quote-unquote thug. And that's why I did a video a while ago called Do Liberal Black Women Love Thugs? And of course the answer is yes. And it's not just because of the aspect of danger, but because of the aspect of chaos. The woman is an agent of chaos. So is the so-called thug. As a matter of fact, one of the prime movers, or one of the main forms of impetus that caused the man to become a so-called thug, is because he knows that it will attract the woman. The woman is drawn to a lot of emotional or carnal energy for the most part, especially when they're younger. They're drawn to that energy, and boys, in an attempt to try to garner the favor or the attention of the woman, they'll try to embrace that image because they know that women love chaos. And you'll see that is why a lot of females, especially low-level females, are so eager to do favors for criminals or for so-called thugs, because it makes them feel like they're being supportive. Remember, the woman is programmed to be a helpmeet and a stay and a support. So if she's dealing with the spirit of chaos, she wants to be supportive to a chaotic man.
Smart, and I don't know where it went.
What was the result?
He got in trouble. He went to boot camp. He finished school though, and he went to boot camp. We visited him in boot camp. He got out. He got in trouble again. And then when he was 21, my mother said, well, maybe you can go down to Virginia and stay with my cousin. He was in the Navy, doing well. You know, another guy. Mm-hmm.
Now, brother, you see what she said there? She said another guy. That is what happens when many of these young boys start to come of age. Now all of a sudden, the same female who thought that she did not need a man, now all of a sudden the same female who swore up and down that she did not need a man to assist her is looking for a male to act as a role model or a model for a young boy. Because the woman is hard-headed. Okay? They're hard-headed. And in a society like this that takes the feelings and the whims of the woman so seriously, they are very much empowered. That's why you have to take the woman very, very seriously when she shows you who she is. When the woman shows you who she is, you must take her very seriously. You can't just say, well, she's just going through a mood. No, she's showing you one of her faces.
So he did. He went down there. And then he eventually kind of found the same group. And you have to look at the person at that point.
Yeah.
Totally agree. When somebody's going from place to place and always trying to find the same type of environment or the same type of group, it's within them. It's a spirit within them.
When you're out the environment and yet you go and find that environment somewhere else, that's in you there. It's understandable. In many instances, when these kids join gangs, it's either your prey or your predator in some of the neighborhoods. I know that firsthand. And got caught with a gun in high school, tried as an adult, sentenced to a year, did 7 months. Then when I got out that environment and went to college, I never looked back. I didn't look for thugs in college. Thank God that I was out of those streets and tried to make something out of myself. You want to get some background, sir?
Well, basically, everything she said was true. You know,
Basically everything she said was true. I was a thug. I kicked down doors, sold drugs, pimp hoes. That's what I did because I know women love it. So I kept doing it. Oh well.
as far as me being, you know, her mother taking me in when I was a baby, yeah. She took me in. You know, they raised us like she raised us like we was brothers and sisters. Like she said, by the time I was like about 9 years old, something like that, I started dipping and dabbling in the streets. Say probably like around 12 or 13, it was yeah, I was really into it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I got to the point, like she said, I got to the point where, you know, I couldn't be controlled. You know, I went to high school, always went to school, but, you know, when I get out of school, I gangbang. Went to school in the morning, gangbang afternoon.
Let me say this very quickly. There's a reason why there are laws in the scriptures and in most strong societies that tell you that when your children start to go too much astray, the parents have the power of life and death over the child. Because not only do you have to be concerned about your own child and how the energy or the vibration or the spirit of that child can affect themselves and or your household, you also have to be concerned about how the exploits of your child are going to affect your entire community. That's why you see that it's so common in many of these other cultures where they'll put their child to death if they feel like their child is going to be a force of evil or confusion for their entire society. Remember, he said, I could not be controlled by a certain age. What he really means is that the society or the culture that he grew up in, the framework was not strong enough. It wasn't strong enough. There was not a form of control, a mechanism of moderation from above to tell him, no, we're not going to tolerate that shit here.
Gangbang is just fighting, nothing for money. Just kind of like fighting over being on the wrong street or something. I've never understood that. Back in my day, we was fighting over money. We were getting some money. I don't care what street you're on, we're getting some money. Somebody getting robbed, some house getting broke in, somebody's purse getting snatched, somebody buying some dope, something related to money.
Mathis always be having his thug flashbacks. I mean, shit, when I was out there thugging, we was doing something for some cash. I mean, we had to rob somebody. We had to kick somebody old down a flight of steps and take their purse. I mean, that's why I'm a judge now, because I'm getting paid. If I wasn't getting paid, I'd still be out here doing some shit.
Last several years, they fight over what street you're on, and everybody's still broke.
Yeah, but it's been that way for a while. Niggas love talking about their block or their projects or whatever, as if they own it.
Go to prison, you're broke, because all you fight over was the street. Go ahead, sir.
That's because the so-called black man is trying to fabricate a culture and a sense of identity. So he tries to identify with his block or with his neighborhood or with his projects because he does not feel like he owns anything. He doesn't feel like he has an investment in maintaining his society or his surroundings. That's why we need a culture. That's why the so-called black man has to understand that his life has value. You have value. It's not just about what color you wear or who you shot or how many drugs you sold or how much time you did in this prison or that prison. All that shit is folly and nonsense. But in order for the so-called black man to understand that a great cataclysm is going to have to occur. And as I stated before, and sometimes people do not like this, but a lot of these guys got to go. A lot of these niggas have to go. Because it's like that movie, Superman 3. And I'll probably be covering this more in depth in another video. For those of you brothers who remember Superman 3, it starred Christopher Reeve and it also had Richard Pryor in it. If you remember, they were trying to kill Superman by giving him the kryptonite. But Richard Pryor had to make a composite of a different form of kryptonite. And this kryptonite did not kill Superman. What it did was it made him an evil version of himself. And in order for him to become the righteous version again, he had to have a showdown against his evil version. And he had to choke the evil version to death so that he could reclaim who he really was. And that's what the so-called black man is going to have to do. The lower portions of our people who don't want to be reformed, they're going to have to be removed in some way, shape, or form. Of course, we love our people. We have to work with them. But there's going to be a cataclysm where, in order for us to be healed, a lot of them are going to have to go in some way, shape, or form. And it's going to manifest itself in some way, shape, or form. Because the environment always cleanses itself.
Sir?
Yeah, around about that time, I took a gun to school, got kicked out of school, boot camp. Did the 4 months boot camp, got out, had an altercation with a friend about a car. He hit my car, I took his car. Bam, carjacking charge, back in the jail. When I got out,
this dude said he had an issue with his friend hit his car, so he took his friend's car. No, you robbed your friend, dude. That's what happened. Now, I don't know if his friend hit his car on purpose, but I'm sure that it's something that could have been worked out.
From the carjacking, I went to Virginia. Started off doing pretty good. I was working at a Sonic Drive-In. Started off as a grill cook. Worked my way up to a first assistant manager. So I was doing that, but at the same time, I was trying to play both sides. I was still dealing and dabbling in the streets, and then, I was still working. So it wound up catching up with me. I had a little shop that I was dealing with, a little flea market shop, and I was purchasing stolen goods, like TVs, electronics, and stuff like that. So I wound up getting in trouble with that. Got told on me, set me up. I wound up getting in trouble with that, took the people on the high-speed chase through a few different cities in Virginia, and I ended up back in the penitentiary again. So I did like 5 years, maybe 5.5 years on that one. And when I got out, I came back home. And since being home, I started off, I was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken downtown, working there full-time, and I was working at Chipotle full-time, so I was working from 6 to 2 in the morning, then 3:30 to 11:30. So since then, I worked my way all the way up, so now I'm a general manager at KFC and assistant manager at Taco Bell.
Good. You still there? You doing that?
That's good for the brother. Hopefully he can maintain on that path, and sooner or later he won't have to keep having to work himself to death working all those damn hours. Oftentimes that will be what drives a lot of these dudes back into the street life. They just can't deal with that straight laced shit where they have to deal with going back and forth with customers all day, because a lot of people are very rude and they're coming from environments where they're raised to not take shit from anybody. So hopefully he can maintain and transition to a higher level of that field or into something else. A lot of brothers are very talented, but they don't give themselves the opportunity to show what their talents or their gifts are because they get caught up in the wrong thing. And then they don't have people to guide them in the right way to make sure that they value themselves. That's why, once again, the so-called black man is so important. And if you know that you're not ready to have a child, do not have a child. Because when you have a child that you're not ready for, that child is going to impact its environment in a particular way, oftentimes in a negative way, because it's going to be resentful that it had nothing there that they felt like had an investment in itself. I don't have a father here, I don't have a mother here who wants to make sure that I'm going to sprout and grow and flourish. So they take it out on the society around them. That's why it's so important. Ain't none of us perfect, but at the end of the day, you know if you're ready to have a baby or not. And if you're not ready, don't have one.
Yesterday marked 3 years of me being home.
Excellent.
Got no problems from the police.
Excellent.
That's good.
You know what I suggest is that you take some night classes, or you work on finding some investors to get your own franchise. Night classes in business will help you move higher and quicker in the management. I've seen it happen before. We have such similar stories. 11 years old, started carrying a gun and doing my thing.
Doing my thing. I mean, I was just running up on people. I mean, I was hell on wheels back in the day. I mean, not to have a flashback, but I mean, shit. I used to have pistol whip Fridays. I just pistol whip somebody just for the hell of it on a Friday. I'm sorry, did I say that?
17 years old, caught with a gun, doing my thing, plea bargain, got out, ordered to get a job, went to fast food, got the job. Went to college on the affirmative action program. Worked at McDonald's at night after that. Made assistant manager my first year. On the other hand, still dibbling and dabbling. Because you don't transition, you don't transform your life that one day. You don't say, I'm through and don't do it anymore. Well, that's not true if you've been in the street all your life. No, you don't just stop. You might slow down a little. I went from some hardcore stuff to selling joints on campus, to flipping 3-car Molly, which is where I met my wife. She turned over the red card and didn't have any money down.
He's like, look like this your lucky day. You just turned over the King of Hearts. So let me take you out on a Friday.
Then a couple other little things involving financial crimes. So then by...
Why don't you specify, what were those financial crimes, Judge Mathis? What was you doing? Making counterfeit bills or something? Bet you this nigga was counterfeiting some money.
By the middle of my second year, nothing. And have not done anything that would send me to prison since that time.
Notice he specified prison. He ain't say jail. I mean, I broke a liquor bottle over a nigga head last week, but I mean, I paid him off and nobody knows about it. So, I mean, I'm trying my best.
$5,000 for the loan, and the attorney fee is for what?
For the attorney fees,
Tell me about the loan first you're suing for.
Okay, the $2,000 was a promissory note that he borrowed $2,000 for attorneys at that time as well.
Let's see, please, the promissory note. Man, this is 04.
I never stopped asking for my money.
No.
Not never. And he kept
When was the last time he said, okay, I'll pay you?
February 1st.
Once again, brothers, when you know that you have somebody in your life that you love and they're desperate for money, and you know that you're going to need that money back, do not hesitate to write out a promissory note and have them sign it. Okay? Do not hesitate to do that. Especially if it's somebody that you know desperately needs the money and you know that you're desperately going to need the money back. I always state, do not lend out money that you're going to need back, because that can be a form of a test for that person. They think that they're just borrowing the money, but you're giving it to them. And if they give it back, then you know that that's a person of integrity. If they don't, and it's a family member, a lot of times you just let it slide. But if it's not, then you say, okay, this is a person that I have to put in a certain compartment, in a certain box, because they failed that test. But if you know that this is somebody that you have great love for and they're in desperate need, and you loan them that money, you make sure that you have them sign a promissory note. All right?
That would be considered reaffirming the loan. Sir, what do you say to the loan? She said you told her in February you reassured her you would pay.
So in other words, she had him sign a promissory note back in 04, and then she reconfirmed with him that he indeed owed her money as late as last February.
Well, in regards to that, I don't remember, did I tell you that in a text message or a voice or what?
No, you signed that promissory note.
No, she's talking about in February.
Oh, February, they would say out loud in front of the whole family. Because he was talking about...
Two people, you have two people nodding their heads right here.
No. When we was at the house, at family dinner, he was saying how
Were
he
the
was
two witnesses there? Because they're nodding
Yes.
their heads.
Yes,
Okay,
they
they're
were.
nodding their heads
They
and they
were.
heard you.
They
That's
were.
enough.
All right.
All right. What about this $3,500 for attorney fee?
That was from the
When?
incident in Virginia
All right. And when was he to repay it?
when he got himself together. And he has got himself together.
Sir, what do you say to that?
For attorney fees, I went with a public defender.
Until your lawyer
I went
quit.
with a public defender.
Until your
I
lawyer
ain't-
quit.
I went with a
So
public
you never had a private lawyer represent you?
Yeah, I had a private lawyer represent me.
So you didn't go with
I
just a
fired
public
him. No, I
defender.
fired him.
So your private lawyer you had first,
Yeah.
and did you loan him the money for that? How much? $3,500.
$3,500.
Is that true?
I didn't tell the good lawyer no
Did he
35
represent you?
for like preliminary hearing.
Okay, so that's a yes.
Yeah, I know that's a yes. but I ain't
Okay,
sure.
well, no, you must not know because you qualified it. So all I asked you was one question. That was a yes or no question. So
Now, nigga, don't make me have to take off this robe.
ain't no yeah, no, it's a yes. You've been before judges now. Talk to me like you talk to them other judges.
Yeah, I'm talking to you like I talk to
All right,
them.
no, you're not. You
Yes, I
talking
am.
to me with this. Maybe that's why you got so much time then.
I don't know.
Yeah, it must have.
Well, I know. I can use this gavel more than to bang judgments, nigga. Watch out. I'm gonna bust you upside your head with this gavel.
It must have been. You don't know how to talk to the judge. I'm going to hold you in contempt. Judgment for the plaintiff. Your claim is dismissed for disrespect and contempt of the judge. Have a good day. You have a good day too, yeah?
It's all right.
Bitch ass nigga.
All right. So everything all right. It's cool. I'm done with it.
I love him.
Same here.
So, you know, I love
And let me just say for the record, it sounds funny to say you my cousin because he's my brother.
Let me say this very quickly. The reason why this got so ugly at the end is because the defendant did not have the integrity to just acknowledge that the plaintiff was desperately trying to help him. So as a man, you know when you owe somebody for what they've done for you, just agree to pay, and they could put you on a payment plan if you cannot afford to give them back the lump sum. And the rapport, the relationship with your family is more important than anything else. You don't want to fall out over money. And I've seen people fall out over money. That's why I state it's always very important that you handle money issues in an orderly fashion, especially with family. But anyway, once again, brothers, can a quote unquote thug change his ways? Absolutely. Just about anybody can change their ways unless they have a severe mental or demonic possession issue. But can a thug change his ways? Yes, you can if you want to. If you want to. But it's all about what you want out of your life. So peace.